I am not a pedophile. I will not go on Twitter to whine about collab decks. I will not complain for a 9 round of Swiss just because I got 9 plays and I need to win in a foreign country. But I am a Jimmy. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mrs. here. Today I'm back to cover Avantgarda Richter in DBT 13. Now, this was the first deck introduced in DBT 13 and boy, this deck has aged horribly. There are 2 supports for Avantgarde, mainly Avantgarda Richter and Asagi Milestone, which is gotta be our first actually good looking Blue Deathsters girl in this deck. But you will be surprised to know that none of this deck's weaknesses have been solved. In fact, they just gave it a new way to win, which is very strange. Why does Avantgarde get a cross right, but we take about a year plus on average for us to get a cross right for other decks? I don't know. But regardless, we're going to be covering this deck, even though I've already said in my last Avantgarda video that I'd never wish to cover this deck again. You can check that in the link in the description. So, our right deck is virtually the same thing. It is Sora Period, Findanis, Stelvane, and of course, Mr. Avantgarde. Now, you still need Sora Period as a starter because the grade 3 or greater mechas all rely you on having Sora Period as their main pilot. So even though you want to play another starter, you can't. Even though we all wish to play the Among Us starter, the true imposter is us. The grade 1 and grade 2 right line components, which is Findanis and Stelvane, have the same effects. When rolled upon, search your deck for a corresponding grade strategy order. For Findanis, it's the grade 1, Assassination, and the grade 2 is Bombing Run, and you can add them to your hand. If you fail the search, however, you simply call the corresponding part out from your soul to the rear guard. So it's very simple. You just use this as a way to get strategy orders. If not, you just get a token on the board, which is fine, I guess. I mean, it's free. It's not counterblast costing. It's free, so it's fine. I will say though that a lot of people do recommend you to play the Office right line. I strongly disagree with this standpoint strictly because we don't have the counterblast to play Howling Moonlight. No, we don't have the counterblast to play for Eroding Moonlight, and we kind of want to find our strategy orders. So yeah, it's as simple as that. Our grade 3 is of course Mr. Avantgarde himself. Nothing has changed. Basically, as an activated skill, if your soul has Sora Period, you move in strategy order from your auto zone into your soul, draw 1 card. This unit gains 5000 power. He gets a new continuous ability, which is that at the end of the battle, this unit attacks. If the attack hit or if you persona right, count +1, choose 1 card from your hand to discard, stand this unit, and he gets drive -1. All the same, nothing has changed. It's still a nice restanding Vanguard that still does a net 0. If it hits, it goes again. If you persona right, it goes again. In any situation, it fails. So, yep, there's a reason why Avantgarde is not tiered on a single DBT 13 tier list, and you should be able to see why. However, that's not the end for Avantgarde's journey. You see, if we actually fail to play with the robot, we put the robot into a robot. Our grade 3 lineup, we play 4 copies of Avantgarde and 3 copies of Avantgarda Richter. Avantgarde, as I mentioned just now, is a persona heavy deck because he needs to persona right in order to guarantee a restand. This is why we still play 4 copies even though we already have a cross right in the deck. Moving on to Avantgarda Richter. The first thing you'll immediately notice is that we only play 3 copies. That's because this deck is actually very bricky as hell. But don't be surprised, Avantgarda Richter is actually a really nice card if you take the time to read its lines and walls of text, which I will, because that's what I do. From the hand, if you have a opponent's Vanguard of grade 3 or greater grade, you can choose a regular Avantgarde on your Vanguard circle and bind him, and then you write this card as stand. If you do, you get to copy the entire activated skill of Avantgarde onto this card. Yes, another grade 3 that copies Vanguard abilities upon a ride. I wonder where I've seen that before, but this basically means that you get to use all of Avantgarda's skills with Avantgarda Richter. But I should warn you very quickly that if you choose to use Avantgarda's skill to download a strategy order into your mainframe to copy the effects, you will not be able to carry on the effects if you go into Richter after that, which means you will need to actually write Richter first before you resolve the mainframe effect of downloading a strategy order from your order zone into your soul. That being said, it is possible for you to do the action twice so that you can cycle through 2 strategy orders from your order zone, therefore you effectively draw 2 in a sense. But above all, that means you can actually build your soul. This is very good against Prison, who is still Sora Period's #1 enemy. If you can guess why, you deserve a prize. But above all, the real meaning is that you generally just use this skill here on Richter. You don't really use Avantgarde skill, then Richter's copied skill. You don't. But you can. There's no reason not to. There's a reason why I play multiple copies of Assassination in this deck now. It is to prepare for the meta with Ignis, is to prepare for Luard, and you will see more of these precautionary measures in the deck. Avantgarda Richter, however, is not helpless. He has one more effect. At the end of the battle, this unit attacks. If you still have Sora Period in your soul, discard 2 cards from your hand. You can choose an Avantgarde from your buying zone, the original one, ride it on top of Avantgarda Richter, plus 10k, minus 1 drive. So essentially, you just get another Vanguard attack because Avantgarde, if you Persona Road or hit, it gives you 1 attack. If you get Richter's skill off, it's another attack. So they just gave Avantgarde another attack by taking the mecha and they just put it into another mecha. I don't get it. It's cool. It's like, you know, the Final Odyssey for those of you who watch the movie. But it's like, why? Why? I don't know. I want to see the lore explanation. But it's a cool looking card, don't get me wrong, it's a fun skill, but it just makes the deck even more brickier. We had so much issues finding grade 3 Avantgardes, and now we have to play 7 to 8. It's strange, but you know what, this is the decision the deck has made, so while playing around these ratios, because Avantgarda Richter is strictly a going second boss, we can afford to play him at 3. Plus, with Asagi Milestone, as I mentioned previously, you have ways to fish out Avantgardes from your drop zone. So you can actually just discard them and keep them in the drop zone, and then when you want it, you can just add it back to your hand. That's why we play it through. Moving on to our strategy orders, because our strategy orders are worth talking about a separate segment. 2 Assassination, 1 Bombing Run, and 3 copies of Death Wins. So I think for those of you who know me in terms of an Avantgarda player, or those of you who have watched the previous Avantgarda video, of which thank you, this is generally how I do an Avantgarda video, where I spend a section before the rest of the deck to talk about the strategy orders. So Assassination, when downloaded, that means put into the soul, you basically get to draw 1 card, right? Because that's what Avantgarda does, so no surprise. But if you download Assassination, your Vanguard gains 5, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and retire it. So it's spot removal. Very, very important. Gandiva is dead, which means you finally get the chance to play stupid decks like Avantgarde. Above all, what that actually means is that you now need ways to have spot removal to snipe off people who want to play more greedily now. People like Lianon, people like Jojo, people like Luard, people like the collab decks. You need stuff that has a lot of powerful effects on board to be removed, and it's very important. I mean, there's even an argument to be made that you want to use this to snipe off, you know, your opponent's Sequanas or whatnot, if they still play Sequana. It's reasons like this that you are more compelled now more than ever to play 2 or more versions of Assassination, because this is an order you don't want to whiff. You want to be able to kill off opponents' rear guards when they are important. The one that's not so important, or at least doesn't really have a home, is going to be Bombing Run. Bombing Run, your Vanguard gains 10,000 power when downloaded, and for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot use Blitz orders. Very fun considering Bushiroad is pushing Blitz orders, and a certain person on Twitter keeps asking for defensive options. We may be playing this more in the future, but the issue with this card is that that's not the reality. We don't live in a world where Blitz orders are meta. We don't have a Denial Griffin Blitz order, and we certainly don't have a way to stop Perfect Guards or anything of the like. All this does, it gives you a 10k boost to the center column, and it stops intercept, yeah, but like, who's intercepting? Who? There's no Malkuth. But the thing is that this is the least played order because we actually play very little grade 2s now, and this is actually a great way for you to get your hands on Stealthbane to a rearguard circle. I know I said previously you don't really want to whiff the search, but I'm making the best of a bad situation. You don't want to see this guy. I mean, what the hell does he do? But at least Stealthbane is a grade 2 attack, 10k attacker, which means if you go first, you can at least get one more swing onto the opponent's Vanguard. In hindsight, I know a lot of what I'm saying doesn't make sense, but if you actually play this deck, you will understand what I'm saying, that you would prefer to see Stealthbane on the rear guard than Findanis. So all in all, I played this card at a one-off because frankly, if you fail the search, it's fine. And then of course we have Death Winds, who is the most important. When downloaded, your Vanguard gets a new red text ability. That is when he attacks, all your front row units gain 5. Quick disclaimer, if you use that on Mr. Richter, right, and if Richter performs 2 attacks, then you write back to Avantgarde. You do not get to keep this red text. The red text is assigned to a Vanguard. It is not assigned to a player like Bruce or Tamayura. Therefore, if you actually jump between Avantgarde versions, be prepared to lose this red text effect. Death Winds is certainly the most strongest order because it's the fastest way you generate numbers out of nowhere. But you must take note, especially now that you have 2 versions of Avantgarde flying around, that you need to know which one you give the red text to, how you sequence it, your number of attacks. It is important, but there is no way of undermining that this card is the best. It is the best. It is the reason why Avantgarde has a future. Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we play 3 copies of Wrecker Geneva, 4 copies of Luard the Argento, and in the right deck we play 1 copy of Stelvane. So let's break it down very, very quickly. I covered Stelvane before, so I feel there's no need to really dive into him. Wrecker Geneva, or if you're in the English version, his skill is that if your Vanguard is Avantgarde, this unit gains 5,000 power, and if you downloaded a strategy order this turn, he gains another 5. Cool, so it's a 20k beater by himself. There are other options you can play, but frankly, Wrecker Geneva is like the best option. For 20k attack on turn 3, I mean, where else are you finding that? Like MLB? Come on. It's really good, it's good magic numbers. If your opponent is struggling to guard with the opponent's Vanguard Avantgarde, who has an on hit, that would mean that his Wrecker Genevas are more likely to hit as well, which makes it so that the entire turn is virtually very hard to guard. If you are playing in a meta that has relatively low hand size fast, this is very punishing to an opponent. So yeah, you can keep that in mind. And of course, the Golden Girl herself, Luard the Argento, the Sky Striker, the god of Avantgarde, the whatever you want to call her, the magazine promo. Luard the Argento, her skill is very simple. When placed on the rearguard circle, if you have moved a strategy order from your order zone into your soul this turn, so +1, search your deck or drop zone for a strategy order of a different grade and add it to your hand. Yeah, so basically what happens is if you download, let's say, a grade 1 strategy order, you can search your deck or drop zone for a 2 or a 3. It's very good that it searches a drop as well because you tend to soul blast out your strategy orders to be able to recycle them. So every on place of Luard the Argento is very impactful because it allows Avantgarde to virtually play for 1 more turn. And you have 4 of them. But the thing is that it's a very expensive card. I mean, obviously it's the heart of Avantgarde. So if you don't have this card, I'm sorry, you can't play this deck. I know there's some people that say, oh, but we can play with other promos. Avantgarde's an actual exception where the deck is so bad without Luard the Argento. So if you don't have her, just don't play her. Play another deck. Like seriously, there's so many other decks that you can get for cheaper. Play all them. I don't know, but you have other options in this game that don't involve Avantgarde if you cannot afford this card. It's not gatekeeping, it's a fact, because generally I just don't want you to waste your money on a deck that doesn't work. Luard the Argento has 1 more skill though, to rub it in a bit more. When your Avantgarde Vanguards attack, this unit gains 5. So it's basically Emmeline as well. So you can go up to a 25k beater, which is even better than Wrecker Geneva. But we still need to play both Wrecker Geneva and Luard the Argento because Avantgarde has no beaters at all. So yeah. Moving on to our honorable grade 1s, we play 1 Findanis in the right deck. We play 3 copies of Asagi Milestone, 4 copies of the King, Mr. Hanada Halfway, and then we play 4 Perfect Guards. It's a very, very straightforward list. Like you're starting to see now that really even a monkey could have built this. Findanis is for the right deck. I don't have to explain it. Perfect Guards, you want to live. You can play the Blitz or the PG. I think it's fine. I'm just playing 4 normal PGs because I'm not very affluent, but you can if you want to. Don't let me stop you. Mr. Hanada Halfway is a complete bane of my existence, one of the strongest cards ever printed, and it's only worth $2. I wonder why. When this unit is placed on the rearguard circle, if you have a Blue Deathsters Vanguard, count +1 and draw a card. Insane. When this unit boosts, if you put a strategy order into your soul this turn, this unit gains 2,000 power. If you're in the center back column, as in this guy, you can counter charge 1. So behind your main mechas, if you boost it with a Hanada Halfway,
Basically, it's a 10k booster at all times and a counter charger, which is really nice. It's a constant source of counter charging, but because Hanada Halfway himself costs a counter blast, you need to slowly be able to refund back all the counter charges that you use. This is why I'm against playing the Office Right Line, because the Office Right Line burns up a lot more counter blast than you get Hanada Halfway to counter charge. And he's your only source of counter charge for his deck, by the way. Like, this is it. There is no Boba Mines, there is no more anything else. This is it. So, be aware. Asagi Milestone is a brand new inclusion to this deck, and she's a bit more versatile than Hanada Halfway. During your turn, if you have put a strategy order to your soul, this unit gains 5,000 power. So it's a 13k booster, it's a 13k attacker. She's stronger than Hanada Halfway. The world is ending. But the best part about skills are on place. When placed on the rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Avantgarde, counterblast 1, choose an Avantgarde from your drop zone and add it back into your hand. So your Avantgarda Richters that I was talking about that you discard, you can actually just add them back to your hand. Your Avantgarde that you Soul Blast out after you Persona Ride, you can add them back to the hand. So the reason why, as I mentioned just now, you only need to play 3 copies of Avantgarda Richter is because you have Asagi Milestone as your safety net. Honestly, Asagi Milestone is only a 2 to 3 off card. You generally would never play more than that because she is not that effective as well. She is a counter blast, which is very expensive, and then it's an on place, and then that's it. So you might want to keep that in mind when building this deck. That Asagi Milestone, while she's very impactful, she's not very well needed in the sense that you only need to use the effect once per game. And last but finally not least, our triggers. Our triggers and Grey Zeros. We play 1 Sora period. We play a total of 8 criticals, because this is, Avantgarde is a restanding Vanguard. We play 4 heals. We play 3 effect draws, because Avantgarde needs its pieces. And of course, a Brandt Gate over trigger. I think it's very self-explanatory. I don't really see anything I need to explain at this point. Besides the draws is because Avantgarde is a very piece-reliant deck in 1000+. And you need a lot of rearguards on the board, you need a lot of pieces around, you need a lot of cards to discard. That's about it. Yes, and that wraps up my Avantgarda Richter deck profile. I know I started off by saying that this deck is very bricky, this deck is very bad, and I'm very sure people have heard me, in public saying that, this deck is not good. Unfortunately, I would like to put a caveat to that. This deck is not good competitively. It is something that is really not what you expect. Even though Garniva is dead and gone, don't expect this to be winning anything major unless you as a pilot completely high roll. It's very hard to pull off a lot of the combos. A lot of the issues of the deck has not been solved, and this is a sentiment that a lot of Avantgarda players I've spoken to also share. I generally thought it was just me, I thought it was bad, but no, apparently most people do feel the same way. But like I said, this is still a very fun deck to play. If you can pull off the entire combo, you really will feel like a Gundam protagonist. It's just really fun to play in general. And it's a mech in a mech. I don't think I really need to explain that much. If you want other decks to play in the set 13 meta, there is like at least 20 different decks supported through that set alone. So really, you don't need to stop at this. You can just try other decks. And speaking of that, I will be covering other decks from DBT 13, but I need some time because my wallet is in pain. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share. Like I said, I will be covering more DBT 13. I may do 1 to 2 more V videos after this, but it also depends, especially for the Shrine deck sets moving forward. We have both Luard and Shiranui to worry about. So yeah, it is going to be a very huge bang for the year of Vanguard 2023 as it comes to its conclusion. The question is, are we all prepared to face Luard again?